After being trapped in a remote canyon for 6 excruciating days, our next guest did the unthinkable. He amputated his own arm to save his life. His book, Between a Rock and a Hard Place, is already a New York Times bestseller. Please welcome mountain climber Aron Ralston.
We're not talking about the book right now. Yeah,
we'll just dance the entire time. Oh, man, I don't blame you. I'd want to dance this much, too, if I were you.
Well, seeing as how the jump over the chair kiss was already taken tonight, I figured I'd go for the extended dance.
You could have done that, too.
Oh.
Now it's too
there
late.
I missed the...
the opportunity. I'm surprised. That's what I expected from you, and you didn't give it to me.
Thank you for the robe, though. I got mine.
See? You got a robe. He's lying.
I know.
He got a robe.
He got a book now, too, so.
Yeah. And I want you to sign mine. My mother took mine and started reading it and didn't give it back to me and said it's
right now?
No, sign it later.
Okay.
It's actually, that's a pointer for the looky-loo.
Oh, that wouldn't have gotten very far then.
No, you could point at the book and tell me that that's where you'll sign it. You can point to where you'll want to sign it.
Okay.
So, all right, I assume everybody knows the story, and I know you're sick, and there's only a little bit I want to touch on, because I know you're probably tired of telling it, but there are other questions I have for you. But tell everybody sort of what happened that day.
I was out by myself. I was in a canyon, a slot canyon, a very deep, narrow canyon, and I pulled a boulder down on my arm. It was in the process of moving over a drop-off that this boulder was wedged between just the walls that were about 3 feet apart, and I stood on the boulder. I was working my way off of it, trying to get down to the continuing canyon floor, and by my body weight, it shifted as I dangled from it, and I pulled it loose. My instinct was to drop off of the boulder, and then I'm on the canyon floor looking up, and it's falling from my head. I put my hands up in front of my face to try to push myself back, and the boulder came in contact, crushing my left hand first, then ricocheting off the wall, crushing my right hand, and then it rotated just slightly as my hand was pushing against it, and then it slotted itself in a new section between the two canyon walls, being held about 3 feet off the ground by the left canyon wall, my hand, and the right canyon wall.
So you're basically, and you're there in that position for 6 days.
Yeah, the first day of it was very optimistic, thinking that I'd be able to get out somehow, and even considering amputating my arm. But through the course of those days, and especially the nights, it was...
Yeah, what were the nights? I mean, the nights were freezing cold.
It was cold. There was the thirst from the dehydration that I was suffering, hunger, the claustrophobia of being in this very small spot.
Because how high were the walls? Like 30 feet high?
80 feet high.
80.
I mean, it was like being in the bottom of a very small elevator shaft, a well, that I came to recognize that I was not going to get out of there. I couldn't amputate my arm. I couldn't chip away at the boulder. I couldn't lift it off of me, even with the climbing ropes and apparatus that I had. And
your left hand had been crushed also, so you have one good hand that's injured.
Yeah.
And you have, basically, this is the pocket knife, right?
Yeah.
And also what was amazing is you took the rope that you had, because you were standing up, and kind of made a seat out of it, so once in a while you could lift your legs up.
Yeah, I got myself as comfortable as I possibly could be, but at the same time, it was utter hell being in that spot. The nights got down to 37 degrees to the last one. I was in shorts and a T-shirt. The depredation that my body went through.
Because you didn't sleep. You didn't allow yourself to sleep so that you wouldn't.
I would have loved to have slept. It was sleep deprivation because of the cold and all the pain that I had this boulder on my hand. And, it was then into the 5th night. I knew I was going to die there. There was no question about it. Rescue was not going to come. I couldn't amputate my arm because that knife was too dull. It would never get through the bones. And I was in my grave.
So you decided, all of a sudden you realized you could do something which was an amazing realization.
It wasn't so much that I realized, but I think it was an epiphany given to me, a divine interaction that was waiting for a very precise moment to come into my life. Because at that same time, unbeknownst to me, but 8 miles away where my truck was, rescuers for the first time had come upon it, knew that it was the vehicle they'd been looking for, and began an operation that ultimately placed a helicopter in the canyon. The epiphany that came to me at that exact same moment was that I could actually use the leverage of this boulder, holding my hand as though, imagine a 2x4 stuck in a table vise and bending it enough that I bent my arm until the forces concentrated and broke first the upper bone, then moving my body around until I broke that second bone. And it was the best idea that has ever come to me in my life. There's nothing so powerful as an idea whose time is 6 days overdue as it was for me. But that led to what was, I think, the part of the story that people know the best, that I used the pocket knife then to amputate my arm and essentially give me my life back.
Yeah. Well, and then there was still more to do after that. But we have to take a break, and we come back. I have so many questions for you.
Oh, we're back with Aron Ralston. We've been dancing like crazy. I like it. I just want to finish really quickly, just because I have so many other questions to ask you, but just finish the story about once you got out, the rescue.
The most beautiful thing that has ever happened to me in my life was the amputation. Getting free, the euphoria I felt at that time as I got through the last part of my arm was by far the most powerful, positive sense of joy of being alive that I will ever feel in my life. What came after that then was a prolonged effort to maintain that life. 80 yards of hiking down through the canyon, a 65-foot rappel that I had to set up using that same rope that I had with me, lowering myself off of it, hoping that I didn't pass out and drop myself.
While bleeding, you've lost 45 pounds. You haven't slept. It's been 6 days. You're weak as can be, and trying to now.
It's one of the many miracles that came to me over the course of this experience that I did not die after doing what I did to give myself the liberation. That I got to the bottom of that rappel. I found water for the first time, this pool that was there, putrid as it was, but also sweet as the finest port wine I've ever tasted, and that I had 7 miles to hike through the desert. Through that, I had to maintain that water source, the supply that I could carry with me. I had to maintain my energy, and then at the time when I thought there was no way I was going to be able to hike myself up out of this 800-foot deep canyon now as it had gotten deeper and deeper, that a helicopter arrived overhead in the canyon, and the synchronicity of those colliding universes of me not knowing anything that had happened outside of the canyon, and the rescue not knowing what I'd gone through, and the intersection there within a window that spanned about an hour. Had I been any earlier, any later, that rescue any earlier, any later, and I would have died, even despite everything I'd gone through up to that time.
Because they were going back to get more gas.
Yeah,
they knew the area, they saw your car, and they decided they were just going to do it on foot, which is amazing. Now, and what's really incredible is your attitude that you just are so positive and so joyful and had a sense of humor through the entire thing.
Thank you.
You saw a little bit, he's dancing in the breaks, and I talked to you before the show started, and I've seen you on TV talking about this before. You're so positive. There's not 1 ounce of you feel sorry for yourself. There's no anger. There's no anything. You said it was you said something in the book about understanding the higher spiritual powers that actually...
That it is the greatest experience that will ever come to me in my life, and it has given my life, I think, such a deeper meaning. Martin was talking about this pyramid of priorities in our lives. I came to recognize those. I had a 6-day session with myself about what is important in my life, and seeing that it's exactly what he talked about: my spirituality, my friends, my family, the money and career things. I had no regrets having been focused on those higher priorities, having let the career and the money take care of themselves as they might, and living my dreams. And that's what I've gotten back to with after all of this.
And you're still climbing.
Beautiful. Still climbing.
And you have an
everything, yeah.
apparatus that actually helps you climb better. You have something that gets into the ice that you're cheating. You're actually, is what it is.
My hand doesn't get cold anymore.
Right, right. So there are benefits to it.
Yeah, in some ways, I can dip my prosthetic into a boiling pot of water if I drop the spoon in there, or to get firewood.
They call you to get it?
Yeah.
Now, so, and what is the hardest thing? What is the one thing that you're having to, or do you just go, you know what, this is who I am, and I accept it and embrace it? And
You know, the only thing I say that I can't do is clap. But that's kind of my own little joke, which maybe isn't that funny, apparently.
Yeah. So. It is to me. It's very important to me.
No, I have a number of things that I have to work more at, that I have to use more patience with, that I have equipment that helps me with various activities. I mountain bike with this, holding onto the handlebar. I use it for kayaking. It fits around the shaft of the kayak. It also works very well for holding a ski pole in a locked position there.
Wow.
This is one of 8 different prosthetics I have, so equipment helps me along as well, as you mentioned.
You could add a spoon to that. You could add all kinds of, it could be a Swiss Army hand almost. You could have...
The utility belt,
Yeah, it is. It's actually really helpful.
The only thing I don't have is the beer koozie attachment. So
To keep it cold in there, too. Well, actually, I'll just adapt that for you. I can work it out for you. All right, we're gonna climb later on together, which you were doing today, and you said you slipped, so I'm hoping, because we're racing. We're racing to the top.
Yeah.
And,
Okay.
and I don't know.
There's buzzers and everything.
There's buzzers and everything, and I don't know what we're doing, but we're gonna do it together. I simply adore you, and I admire you, and you are my hero.
I appreciate that. If I could say one additional thing, it is that I want people to know from this story that nothing in their lives is impossible, that they have the courage and the faith and the perseverance to do what they think they can't do, and to lift those metaphorical boulders in their lives off of them. It's something that has convinced me that I can do it, and I hope that people can see that for themselves in their lives and do greater things for themselves too. We can do it.
You can read the rest of Aron's incredible story in his book, Between a Rock and a Hard Place, and it's beautifully written, my mother says. She took it from me as soon as I got it. It's currently in bookstores everywhere. It's on the New York Times bestsellers list. It's an amazing book. Everybody in the audience is getting a copy. We'll be right back with Tyra Banks right after this.